What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Girls with Goals with your hosts, Anne Catherine
and Caroline, and today we are coming at you with ways to take control of your own life, which I think is really a big theme of this podcast in general, and a huge thing that everything we talk about comes back to: how to remain in control of your own life, how to have the confidence, how to, be the one in the driver's seat in any scenario that we talk about. But today we want to be a little bit more tangible with ways that you can take back that control or make sure that you maintain that control of your own life.
Yeah, I think that's a huge concept that no matter what we're talking about, it may not be the main theme of this show, but it is embedded in everything that we talk about and everything that we want to get across and inspire within everyone that listens to this show. And it's obviously been a huge theme in our lives for as long as we can remember. We've not chill. Whenever we talk about our school, I feel like school is the most tangible option of the school career. But we don't typically hit the traditional, we graduated early and our current university is the most
flexible school.
Not
flexible, but opportunity.
So opportunity driven and just non-traditional almost. And we absolutely eat that up, and that works for us, and understand that it may not work for everyone. Whenever people ask if we like Northeastern, I'm like, I love it. It's so not for everyone. We don't have sports teams. People are working 9 to 5.
We do have sports teams, but it's definitely not the center of the culture.
Yeah, I've never been to a Northeastern sports game.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I know it is, but it's not the traditional school, and I love that. And while that may work for us, something different may work for you. Mm-hmm. And it's about, one, finding what that is, and two, making that your reality. So I think the biggest takeaway from this is make what you want a reality. Take control of your own life in order to go and do what you want to. Maybe it is the most traditional path that you're on, and that's great. Stick to it, eat it up, make the most of it. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's something completely different or something in between, but whatever it is for you, the main goal is to be the one driving yourself to that.
Yeah, so I think that there are two pieces of being the one in control of your own life. I think it's being the one to make those big decisions and choose the legitimate path that your life takes, or at least leave yourself open to opportunities and leave yourself flexible to be able to make different choices and go different routes. And then I also think it's the day-to-day feeling and Catherine references a lot the idea of living in the first person. I think it's also that day-to-day feeling like you are living in the present, you're mindful of your actions, your thoughts, and you're feeling like you're in control. You're not living your life being reactive to everything that's happening to you. You live your life more proactively in that driver's seat. Things can come at you and you can observe them and interpret them and make your choice, and you're not just living kind of based on what's happening to you. You're letting things happen for you, and you're able to kind of live in that first person and make those choices as they come. So I think that taking control of your own life comes from understanding that you have the authority and the responsibility to make those bigger life decisions for yourself, and you can choose that path. And then also in the day-to-day, you are the one living your life in your body with your mind, and ultimately have the power to take control over all those actions and thoughts. And it's not necessarily something that you can be perfect at, right? Because there are things in our lives that are out of our control. But in Catherine said, I think it's always been kind of embedded in our personalities and intrinsically in who we are to make decisions for ourselves, whether they're the ones that everyone else is making or whether they're unique to us. And it doesn't mean that every decision that comes my way, I have to choose the unique option. There are a lot of things that I do that are on the same path just like everyone else, but I think we've always had this awareness that there are other choices and that we can always make an independent choice. I think that definitely started with growing up abroad, because we lived our lives in New Hampshire with our family, and then, not that it was our choice, but our family moved abroad and we lived in Hong Kong for 4 years. And I think experiencing that different side of life and something totally out of the ordinary of what we like started our lives growing up in, as well as being able to travel, going to an international school and being exposed to like how many different types of people, how many different lifestyles, how many different choices there are and routes that you can take in life. Then moving back to New Hampshire, I think it definitely gave us the perspective of like, okay, this is where we are now, but we can make the choices to take our lives in any direction that we want because we've seen kind of other opportunities that are out there. So that's kind of what I attribute to giving me that quality, but I think it's something that you can decide to take on at any point in your life too, even if it hasn't like clicked and happened for you based on something in your childhood like I think I've experienced.
And of course, everyone has different levels of what you can, kind of up and change at this given moment, or whenever you realize I want to take more control of my life, or I want to move my life in a different direction. So with everything that we say, of course, scale it down or up or around to what works for you and what you are capable of doing in this moment, and use that as a point to grow from or just an intention or direction to go in. So we've kind of broken it down into different levels and directions and spaces where you can take more control of your life and use specific areas to get that energy going.
So what we have are some bigger categories of life that pretty much anyone can look at to take control of their life, and then a lot of like mini supporting actions. And so the first thing that comes to mind for me when it comes to taking control of your own life is finding a sense of independence in your own life. And I think that that can start really well by building a habit or having a hobby that you do independently outside of anyone else, if it's something that you do totally independently, or outside of like your typical realm of people. Maybe you're on a sports team that is like a club team outside of your typical friend group or school, and it's something that you just go and do with this other group, and it's something like that. Maybe you really feel that with art, and that's something that you do completely independently, painting or drawing or whatever it is. Maybe you enjoy making music, even if that's just playing guitar or playing an instrument or singing by yourself, even if it's not something you're taking on like as a professional thing. I think that finding some hobby or habit that is completely independent to you can really give you that empowerment to feel like you have this sense of independence in your life, and there are areas of your life that no one else has control over. I think that that is hugely what fitness is for me, and why that is such a core piece of my life is because that's one way that I really find independence in something that I have sole control over.
Yeah, I think independence is such a huge part of it. I know independence is a huge part for me, especially being a twin. Obviously, not many people are gonna understand that or relate to it, or if you have siblings that are close in age and your mom is always like, oh, do this with that, or you have similar friends, or just anything where you feel that your life is overlapped. Being a twin, it's so hard to differentiate yourself, or like everything that we do is together, and that's great that we work together and we're able to like have the same friends and we have the same interests. That's great. I need independence. Like I need things that I do solely on my own to, one, feel like an individual person, and two, to be empowered that like, oh, this is my own life. Like this is what I'm doing, and it's just so helpful. So whether you just have friends, you're super close with your family, and you need some independence, or even if you don't need it, like take some independence. And that could be a hobby or an activity that you do outside of anyone else that you typically hang out with or see.
Yeah.
Or it could be like strictly by yourself. Like you don't need other people to do these things. It could be going for runs by yourself, like an avid runner. I also think it needs to be a consistent thing, like to build the independence and to actually live it.
Well, I think it needs to become something that feels like your thing.
Yeah.
Like your safe space, your hobby, your independent venture.
That's the whole point of it, is that it like is something that you do. You, one, intentionally sought it out or put energy into it and put effort into it. That's a huge part about it, the independence piece too, is that oftentimes when you have a solid like friend group or group that you work out with, or like work people, whatever it may be, we kind of work in these groups, and things are almost, they like fall into place for us, plans or activities maybe. But when it's just you taking the authority and taking the intention to go do something outside of that, that is filled with so much more energy. I think it's so much more like energizing and inspiring, and it just feels so much better because it's something that you're doing for yourself intentionally. Like 100% you chose to do it, you went to do it, you did it. Like it just is such a different aspect of life that is so necessary, that you need to be taking control of, even on a small minor scale of like activities you do, independence in certain areas. And that's where I think hobbies and like outside interests kind of come into play, because those are really simple ones to get going. And because you can go do a hobby by yourself without, you know, your typical friend group, and you can just go do it. Like you can go book an art class, or like go buy a guitar, or like go for a run by yourself and make that a consistent thing, or part of kind of your how you live your life. And that's super simple to integrate in your life because it has no strings attached other than you doing it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's, of course, huge benefits to like having a sense of community. That's not to say that all of these things have to have nobody. Like if it's fitness for you, sometimes you're going to go for a run with other people, or maybe you're part of a group that, you know, goes to the gym at similar times, or you see people there, you work out together. Right. But I think at its core, it's something that is important to you independently. And even if you do it with a group sometime, even if you're affiliated with a soccer league or a hiking group or something, it's something that feels like yours, independent of the core of the rest of your life.
Right. That's not to say go do something alone. By all means,
which you totally
can do things
can.
alone.
It could totally be alone, but it doesn't have to be
alone.
if that's less comfortable, you know?
Absolutely.
I think another huge way to feel like you're in control of your life is to consciously make a choice for yourself that's off the typical path. And I would say make that something that, you know, you feel drawn to a little bit, not necessarily just making a choice just to do something differently and forcing yourself, unless that, like, jump out of your comfort zone is what you're feeling drawn to anyways. But when I say this, I mean something like, if you want to take a gap year before you go to school, or after you go to school before you get a job, if you want to do a semester abroad while you're in school, or just do some independent traveling on yourself, or maybe live abroad or move to a new city, or maybe it's building a side hustle or doing something in tandem with whatever that kind of typical path is. I think deciding for yourself that you are going to do something that takes you even just slightly off of that typical route, or do something at the same time when it comes to like a side hustle or studying abroad. I think that builds this huge sense of independence, of making a choice for yourself that really alters your life in a way that, you know, you didn't have to do, but you decided to take a jump and do something different and build a new experience for yourself.
And to an extreme extent, that is what we're taking on now. When we say off the typical path, that could be like, it doesn't have to be a huge, gigantic life change. It could just be something minor. Like maybe you have a different type, maybe you don't get a 9-to-5, you get a freelance job, or maybe you like take on a research project in school that's on top of your typical education, because it's like something different that you're passionate about.
Oh my God,
I did that once because my like group in school, there was like 4 of us that were in a project group for like a year or 2, and then one of them was like, oh, do you want to do a research project? And I was like, everyone was just like, yeah, of course. And I was like, I had no interest in doing research prior to that, but it ended up being super fun. And like completely outside of, and I don't think we even got credit for it, but it was just interesting. So like off the beaten path, maybe it's something, or off the typical path, maybe it's something that maybe like you're an engineer and that's what you do, and then you go pick up this hobby that's completely separate. So we're not saying like uproot your life or like make these grand changes in your life. It's just do something that adds variation and more depth and like more interest.
Maybe it's one weekend instead of going out with your friends like you typically do. Maybe you plan a weekend trip to drive somewhere an hour away and just go on a trip. Like it could be as minor as building things into your life like that to shake up the routine a little bit. Like Catherine was saying, on a larger scale, you know,
like to the most extreme
extent. We actually have some exciting life plans where we've decided to kind of take a different little road for a moment and then get ourselves back on that track. But
it honestly, in the context of like how we already live our life, it doesn't seem that crazy to be like, oh, we're taking the semester of school off. Like, we're not, every time people are like, oh, when are you going? It's September 3rd, September 5th. It's literally after Labor Day right now, and we're like not back at school, and everyone's like, oh, when you go back to school? And we're like, we're not is the craziest thing.
I guess the opportunity we kind of created for ourselves started with that, like, kind of going off of the path in the terms of like a side hustle, where we've been doing this podcast for 2 years now. We just recently hit our 2 years, and it's something that we've always been doing alongside something else. It's never been something that we've given ourselves, or I guess maybe had the opportunity to do fully with nothing else. We've always done it alongside school, alongside working. And we've decided that, you know, for the time being, we've put so much effort and so much passion into this, and we're so grateful for everyone who's listened, who's, you know, kind of made this dream a reality and helped us build this show to the base that it's at, that we want to give ourselves some time to kind of sit with this and live with this and do just this for a moment and not try to do everything at once and not try to rush things. So we've decided we're taking the fall semester, a little gap semester from school before we go back to finish our degrees, to fully focus on this podcast, on building this community, and on building some life experiences for ourselves. So that's going to include a lot of travel, starting with this Monday, the day that this episode is being released. We're jetting off to Croatia.
Yeah, we decided we're going to fill this time with a little bit of travel and then a little bit of like homework time, and just going back and forth between wherever we're traveling and then home in New Hampshire, Boston, like East Coast within the US. So our first little trip route is we're going to go to Croatia, do a bit of a sail.
A bit of a sail. 7 days sailing the Croatian islands. I can't wait to jump into that clear blue water.
With
Morgan Venn, who many of you might know. She's a great creator
Very
as well.
true.
We were connected with her on Instagram. We've actually never met in person, which is another, like, take the leap, take control, like deciding to go on a trip with someone you've never met but think you could be great friends with. I think that that's a cool thing in itself.
So we're going to go sailing Croatia with her, and a bunch of other people are going on the trip as well. And then we're going to go visit some friends in London. You guys know our friend Alec. I feel like we talk about her all the time because she is just like the epitome of a good friend. It's crazy. They're so rare these days. And then we're going to go surfing in Portugal because I've been wanting to do that forever. And then we'll be back home for a bit. And
then we'll see where it takes us next.
We'll see where it takes us next.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the plan. We're both super excited about it. Honestly, it feels kind of calm though. Like, it feels just like, oh, this is what we're doing. Like, this, it makes sense because travel and taking control of our own lives are so core to what we care about and what we are willing to put energy and effort and money towards. I feel like that question comes up a lot, is like, how do you travel so much? I want to travel, like, it is a top priority, so I am willing to sacrifice other things in order to make that happen. And it's just about how you rearrange your life, like how it works out. And because that is such a top priority, we have been drawn to and have the motivation to like put something like this together, and it is so exciting to see pan out, and I'm just can't wait for the actual trip to happen. We're gonna do a mini like travel diary series, so we'll get so much more to talk to you guys about on those little mini episodes, as well as meeting Morgan, seeing a bunch of friends. It's just an overall exciting time.
Yeah, so from the podcast, you guys can expect our typical Monday episodes that we come out with every week, but just like we did a mini healthy habit series throughout the summer, we're going to be doing during this fall, I guess during any week that we're traveling, we're going to be putting out a mini travel diaries episode, which is going to be a bit more just like conversational vlog style of whatever our adventures are, what we're experiencing, what we're learning when we're in those different places. So like we said, we have Croatia, London, and Portugal on deck, and then, you know, we have a few more months that we're taking off where we're going to be between New Hampshire as our home base and then building out some more adventures. So we'll definitely keep you guys updated with what we plan next, because we're going to fill a bit more of that time. So definitely be on the lookout for those Thursday mini episodes, as well as I'm going to link our YouTube channel in the description because I definitely want to do a few travel vlogs. So if you guys want a visual of everything while we're there, make sure you're following our Instagrams at Caroline Canine, adding Catherine Canine, and at Girls with Goals Pod. And then you can also subscribe to YouTube. A third big category that I see in maintaining control of your own life is being disciplined about your boundaries. I know people talk all the time about having boundaries in your life, having boundaries for what is allowed to be in your life, for who is allowed to be in your life, and how they're allowed to treat you. But how often do we actually stick to those boundaries and stay disciplined to them when it becomes challenging, when people kind of walk the line of what those boundaries are, or when we let them slip little and little and little until suddenly it's like, wait, what were those boundaries again? We have to have a sense of discipline with that, because it's not like you just say, this is my boundary, this is my standard, and then nothing else is going to come at you and nothing else is going to try to enter the realm of your life. It's about being able to stay true to what those boundaries are and say, like, yes, this can be in my life, no, this can't be in my life, and staying true to that, because that is one of the number one things that is going to make you feel like you have control over your life. If you are the one making the decision of, this can be, this can't be, this is how I want to live my life, this is how someone can treat me or not, because you set those standards. And then we've talked about this before, but you tell people how they're allowed to treat you based on how you let them treat you. If somebody is consistently flaky with you, if someone is consistently disrespecting you, but then you continue to show up at the same level as you are, give them chance after chance, you're not telling them, I deserve more than this. You're telling them, you can continue to treat me this way and I'll continue to show up. Versus if you know what your boundary is and that's not cool with you, you don't let them make that same mistake with you twice. If they do it to you once, you back off and you put that boundary up that you've made for yourself. And so I think that starts with knowing, what are your values? What do you want in life? And then what are the mindsets and the habits and the types of things and people that help fuel that? And then just being a bit more mindful and disciplined about making sure that what's in your life actually aligns with that. Because I think sometimes what we want and what we think we want, and then kind of the actions that we take and what we let in our life, they're not always aligned. And so I think bringing those into alignment gives you a huge sense of control over, hey, I decided that this is what I wanted to allow in my life, and then I'm staying true to that and actually making sure that that's my reality.
And then my favorite, and I guess most prevalent point for taking control of your own life right now is be the one to make plans, which is the most like day-to-day example of taking control of your own life. I like all through high school, and I guess in college I started like making plans, but still I was not the one to make plans, or I just didn't even think that was an option. I was like, someone has to invite me or else I'm not wanted there, which is like, maybe that was just a result of the friend groups that I was in or the people that I was around. I was like, I can't be the one to make plans. Like, I don't have the authority to make plans. I don't want to be the one to make plans. I want to know that I'm welcomed or that the other people want to be hanging out with me. But one, I think confidence plays into it a lot, of being the one to make plans, because that is a huge part of it. Like, you're kind of putting yourself, if there are people that you don't know that well, like, you're putting yourself on the line. That's the whole like idea of potential rejection or whatever it may be. But this summer I have been making plans heavy. Like, I have been the one so often to, and of course you never want to be imbalanced. I think that's a huge part of like making plans, is that of course you want your friendships and relationships to be balanced. Like, you want them to be making plans as much as you are. But this summer I've been like, I don't care. Like, I want to do the things I want to do. I want to see the people I want to see. There was like a summer bucket list I had in the beginning of the summer, and I was like, I want to do all the summer things. East Coast summer, it's great, but it only lasts for like 2 months. You have limited time to do all of the good things, and I'm just not a winter person, so all of the good things around here are the summer. Mm-hmm. I also love when people come visit, so it was partially being like the grand come visit, and like groups or little friend groups or one-off friends would come and visit, and then you get to do all the things you want to do. And that's great because you get to plan the day, the itinerary, and you could like pack it full of all of the absolute best things. But on like a day-to-day people around here basis, it ended up being really fun because one, everyone was on the same wavelength of like wanted to do all the activities and like be outside and go to the beach and do all these things for summer. But I really enjoyed being the one a lot of the times to be like, hey, do you want to go surfing tonight? Like, can we do this tonight? Do you want to have like a beach picnic tonight? Like, suggesting tangible, varying ideas. Because when you get in a rut of like hanging out with the same people, not a rut, but like when you get in a routine of hanging out with the same people in the same areas, like obviously we're going to the beach. That is super easy to whatever you are typically doing and whoever you're typically with to get in a routine of like doing the exact same thing all the time. Not to say that's not super fun, but I love having varying activities and like doing a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And so to put a tangible idea and kind of people to the plans that you're making is huge. And it's not like a control thing, but it's a let's do this, let's elevate what we're doing. Like, it helps you do what you want to do and see the people you want to see. And it's just a win-win situation for everyone. So I think that's huge, and I think it is so easy to get in the habit of like falling back and not taking the lead on making plans for so many reasons, but you're never gonna go wrong like making a solid plan. If someone can't go or doesn't want to, like, you'll find that out, and at the end of the day you're gonna do what you're gonna do. Mm-hmm. And then this helps you get to do a lot of those things without having the like hindrance of waiting for other people and letting them kind of lead it when you have the ability to lead it yourself and like create these plans and these opportunities to do things for yourself.
Yeah, being the one to make plans or making sure that you are at least sometime making the plans for yourself and what you want to do, it's definitely a great way to feel like you're in control of your life, because it's not all tied to what other people want to do, and it's not all tied to their timeline necessarily. You decide, hey, I want to go to this concert. I'm gonna plan this concert and see who wants to go with me. Or I want to go surfing tonight. Does anyone want to go with me? Otherwise I'll go by myself, you know? Or hey, I want to host a dinner party and I want to do this. And Captain and I are huge on our hosting game recently. And it's fun because you can decide exactly what you want to do, and you can check the boxes of your little bucket lists and what you enjoy doing, and then
while being with the people you want to be with.
Exactly. And you can kind of take that authority and be the one to make the plans, and hopefully then it's reciprocated as well. That's always what you would hope, is that sometimes that effort is reciprocated, but it means that you can be doing what you want with who you want, and you can kind of remain in control of what you do with your life. Finally, similar to independence and finding ways to feel independent with your life, with the activities that you do, I think that having something that is completely your responsibility to take care of, to own, to manage, can give you a huge sense of feeling in control of your own life. That could mean maybe you own your apartment, or maybe you're just renting your apartment, but that is your home and that's your responsibility to manage. Maybe it's your car. Like, you have your car, that's your car, you bought that car, you have to take care of it and manage it, and that's like your property and your thing. Maybe it's an animal. You have a dog or a cat. One day I would love, I love having Stanley, but he's not fully my responsibility. One day I would love to have an animal of my own, but I'm just moving around too much and I don't have the time, and I know I don't have the responsibility to raise an animal right now. But there's a huge feeling of independence and control and responsibility when you are like the sole caretaker of something, or you are the manager of something. It could be a small business. It could be all of these big things that I'm talking about, but I also think it could be like your sense of style. You take a responsibility over your sense of style. It could be, taking control of your music taste and curating playlists for yourself and kind of being the manager of the music that you listen to. Like, you can find it in those small things as well, if you're not at a point of like owning an apartment or owning a car or owning an animal, right? Those are definitely bigger things to have responsibilities and take care of, but you can find that ownership over things in smaller ways in your life as well. At the same time, I also think that can be having an experience that's entirely yours. I think that's why so many people come back from a semester abroad or solo travel and they feel like they're so changed and they are like different people and they've grown so much, because they've been able to have experiences that were solely their own. Even if there were other people around, even if their friends have traveled to the same places, they experienced those things that were new to them totally on their own. And so that gives you this sense of ownership over your life. Like, hey, my life is not identical to anyone else's. My experiences, my responsibilities, they're not identical to anybody else's. So finding ways to feel like you have ownership over unique things and unique experiences are going to make you feel like you are in the driver's seat of your own unique life.
So the whole goal of this episode is to reinforce the idea that you are empowered and able and capable of making a conscious effort and changing where your energy goes and making changes to your life. And a few things, of course, those are huge macro ideas and can be applied to like gigantic life changes like moving or changing a job or anything on that caliber, but it's also on a daily habits and daily routines, and you can have it in small doses and still get that feeling of like being empowered and feeling fulfilled and feeling like conscious and confident within your own life.
So some things that can help empower you to drive those larger things in your life, or almost just be that sense of control and empowerment on their own. I think journaling is one, because that is going to really build the relationship with yourself and give you a sense of empowerment to decipher how you're feeling and what you're experiencing and where you want to go. I also think creating a vision board is huge, just like being able to get creative and visualize things and scroll through Pinterest and scroll through inspiration and see what you're really drawn to give you a sense of what you want in life and what the path is that you want to take, or what those boundaries are that you want to set up for your life to create this vision that you're seeing for yourself. A daily planner to schedule out your days and feel like you have some authority over your time and how you're controlling your days. I think those are a few smaller scale daily things, whether it's keeping a daily planner, journaling, looking at a vision board, that can really keep you centralized in your own life.
The core idea behind that like vision board is that you can make changes and take authority and choose what your life looks like. And then the scheduling your days and daily planner, that's like a day-to-day, super tangible way of making that actually happen.
Something that I always think about is if you're working for another company and you're working for another person, your career doesn't have to be revolved around them. And you don't have to feel like the entire purpose of your work is to serve this other group, another person. I think being able to look at your career from an entrepreneurial lens of what skills do I want to build? What are my own career goals? And then taking that lens in whatever job you have is a huge way to feel some sense of control over your life and career. If you can see, here's the career path that I want, and here's how this current job fits into it, and how I'm going to gain those skills, and how I'm going to work with people and make an impact here. But it's all kind of for the path of my own personal career. I think that shift in perspective is super helpful and going to make you feel like you're on your own independent path and have control. Similarly, if you're in school, there are so many unique opportunities that you have at your school, and I think it's totally worth looking into what all of the course options are, what all of the flexible opportunities are at your school. Maybe it's like summer courses or a semester abroad or a summer abroad, or maybe they offer internship opportunities and things like that. Or it's just looking through your course load and saying, hey, I have a couple spaces for electives and there's other things that I'm interested in that would feel pretty empowering for me to learn about outside of my typical major. I think looking into all of those opportunities, probably meeting with an advisor to get creative about what your path could be and determining your own path rather than following exactly the set in stone what you need to do for your major. There's a lot of ways to be creative with it and take control of that on your own. And then finally, another day-to-day action is, of course, mindfulness. At the core of feeling in control of your own life is being able to be in control of your actions and your reactions. So being mindful about how different things are affecting you, about how something makes you feel, and taking on the practice of observing something and thinking about it and then choosing your own action rather than having some of those more immediate fueled reactions. Getting into that practice is going to make you feel like you have a huge sense of control over what you do and how you react, and it's also going to probably help you make choices that are smarter for you in the long term if you can kind of like cool off from things and not make such drastic, immediate, probably emotionally charged reactive decisions. So I think kind of trying to take on that practice of mindfulness and slowing down your decision making a little bit to bring that sense of control back to yourself is my final thought on ways to feel like you're in the driver's seat of your own life.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate it every single week that you come and hang out with us. And we will be hitting you with a mini episode next Thursday.
This coming Thursday.
This Thursday. For the first, like, Travel Diaries check-in on Croatia and all things that we've been doing so far. And then we'll hit you on Monday with another full episode.
Make sure you're following the show wherever you listen, on Spotify or Apple. If you want to leave us a review, it means so much to us, and it means so much to us that you guys are just here in general, that you share the show with your friends. When you guys tag us in stories, it makes our day.
I love seeing people on walks and, like, different walk
I know.
routes.
It's so cool.
Because some people you get to walk on a farm, like, some people you get to walk in a city, some people you get to walk, like, by the beach. Some
people are walking, like, their dogs, or walking their kids,
like, in a cute neighborhood. It's fire.
It's good stuff. We will see you guys on Thursday. Bye.